unanimous question mark. Top takeaways from Supreme Court's ruling to keep Trump on the ballot. This is USA Today's story. It was very hard for them to write this article, but they did their best. The Supreme Court unanimously ruled against efforts to bar former President Trump from running again, emphasizing the need to prevent a state-by-state patchwork on Trump's candidacy. Trump celebrated the decision as a big win for America. Conversely, the challengers saw the ruling as a narrow, technical off-ramp that didn't address the full story. Liberal justices, including Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, criticized the majority for exceeding necessary bounds, echoing Chief Justice John Roberts' stance on avoiding unnecessary ruling. Justice Amy Coney Barrett emphasized the unanimity of the decision with acknowledging differences in opinion. And the results, 9-0, I believe what the results was, Tom. So, Tom, how big of a deal is this story? I mean, everybody's seeing it. Some are not selling it as a big deal. Some are saying this is the biggest decision of the last 8 years. How big was this?
This is huge. Back on February 8th on this podcast, we talked about how big it was going to be because the opening arguments, and people need to understand, America needs a civics lesson. American media needs a damn civics lesson because they're lobbying the Supreme Court as if you lobby the court to get what you want. Oh, just support Colorado, keep them off the ballot. That's not the way it works, and you don't want the back end of this. How big was this? Let me tell you how big this was. You had the Supreme Court hearing. First of all, they agreed to hear the case. They didn't have to do that, but Solicitor General and 4 justices is what it takes, says, okay, we'll agree to hear the case. So they hear the case. February 8th, oral arguments are heard. And what was very interesting, I think here's a quote from the Supreme Court. I think the question you have to confront is why a single state should decide who gets to be president of the United States. In other words, this question of whether a former president is disqualified for insurrection to be president again, that sounds very national to me. Who said that? Elena Kagan, the second most liberal justice on the court.
Oh, wow.
That was her. That was her. And so that's during the oral arguments on February 8th. And then, the media wasn't paying attention that here were the people that already felt it was national and were on the record saying it's national and that the states don't read the Constitution to make a decision on the state level. That's a federal document, the U.S. Constitution. So here we go. Let's count. You ready to count with me?
Let's go.
Okay. Clarence Thomas.
1.
Says, then you've got the Trump trio, Amy Coney Barrett.
2.
Says Neil Gorsuch.
3.
Brett Kavanaugh.
4.
And our friend, getting older, Clarence Thomas.
5.
So that's 5-4 decision, ladies and gentlemen. This was 5-4 going down as long ago as January 15th. So why is it big? It was big because Roberts went with the conservative majority on this, saying it's a federal thing. John Roberts.
6.
And Sandra Sotomayor, who we just didn't hear from, heard Elena Kagan. Sotomayor is very big on voters' rights. And so she's not going to line up on this because if you allow them to do it, she called it basically that you would have electoral mayhem, meaning states would say, you're off the ballot, you're off the ballot. Well, it only takes one election for the other side to have a majority, and then they take guys off the ballot. So Sotomayor was like, no, we can't do this.
7.
There's 7. Remember I said it was going to be 7-2?
You did.
And I thought Ketanji Jackson, and I thought that Elena Kagan would go the other way. But during arguments, Kagan was the one that just gave the quote here. So this was a very big deal to basically tell the states, you do not preside over federal things. Period. That's the way it went. And that was huge. And the news media needs a civics lesson because they were all yesterday freaking out.
Adam.
Well, to all the Vinny haters out there that think Vinny can't count to 9, he just proved you wrong. He only got to 7.
I didn't have
but
to.
something tells me he knows 8 and 9.
I could have done it.
I think you know 10 as well.
He can't count to 21 unless he's naked.
Hey-oh. Hey-oh.
Tom. Well, let's go over a few things. Colorado was the first state that introduced this into the atmosphere, and then I think it was followed by Maine and Illinois. But I think it's great to see that there's just a universal ruling by the Supreme Court. Rob, I sent you something, by the way. You tend to think that 9-0s are sort of anomalies. Like, oh my God, 9-0s, completely unanimous. The 5-4 rulings tend to get all the headlines. It's contentious. Who knows what's going on? But here, keep scrolling down. Despite popular misconception, the most common rulings by the Supreme Court are in fact 9-0, meaning they tend to agree with each other universally more than disagree. The 5-4 gets contentious, Roe versus Wade, everything that gets polarized out there. But this is a very common ruling, and this is a very common sense ruling. One of the key words that we always use around here is accountability. Another word that I think should be vocalized is the concept of fairness. And, the right to a fair trial, the right to a fair jury, a fair judge. And this just seems fair universally. So I think, last point to my Democratic friends out there with Donald Trump, you're accused of politicization of the justice system. You're accused of election interference. Here's my advice. Win the game during the game, aka election. Stop trying to win this thing in the pregame.
Win or cheat, because I took a little bit of time. I made a list of all of the left, all the Democrats made up to date failed election interference tactics. This is a whole different game that they're playing. First, and I'm gonna do this fast. Obama CIA spied on Trump in his campaign.
Can I count now? One.
Yeah. Okay, ready? Obama spied on Trump in his campaign.
1.
Okay, Hillary and the DNC, fake Russian collusion hoax.
2.
They impeached him twice.
3.
They indicted him 4 times.
5.
Arrested him 4 times. 91 criminal charges. None of that worked.
28.
So then all these states tried to disqualify him from their ballots. That just failed, 9-0. Okay, and now you have people like Colorado Democrat Secretary of State Jenna Griswold. She goes, it will be up to the American voters to save our democracy. Remember I said that about a couple months ago? You're going to keep hearing that now that it's election year. And then Keith Olbermann, Pat, I don't know if you saw this guy. Rob, can you show his tweet? You want to talk about Trump derangement syndrome? And I think that there should be a home. Adam, there should be a new practice that, like, for psychiatrists that just deal with Trump derangement syndrome. We could have maybe Valuetainment could start.
What do you mean? That's how I got cured, buddy.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. So he's malfunctioning so bad. Look at this thing. He goes, the Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. Its members, including Jackson, well, he's turning on his own people, and Sotomayor have proved themselves inept. This is the Supreme Court to reading comprehension, and collectively the court has shown itself to be corrupt and illegitimate. It must be dissolved. He's calling for the dissolution. Hold on. He wants to dissolve the Supreme Court. Okay, this is what he's talking about.
Because they wouldn't do what he wants.
Yeah, because he's a scumbag. And then Hillary Clinton, Rob, I sent you that clip of her on Instagram. I love it. Anytime something like this happens, they always have to go to the Hillary. Look at Hillary Clinton's attitude on. Let me see if she says saving democracy.
Without talking about the opinion, which I haven't had a chance to read and study.
She might kill some people.
There wasn't one, you pinhead.
This court would make that decision.
Guys, I can't hear this. Can you go back, please?
Yeah. I'm not surprised that ultimately it's up about the opinion, which I haven't had a chance to read and study. I'm not surprised that this court would make that decision. And I'm not surprised that ultimately it's up to the American people to prevent him from ever getting near the Oval Office again. And that's what we have to do.
Meaning actual election.
Well, you ready for this? This is coming from the woman that started the entire fake Russian collusion that people still are talking about today. So here's my question, Tom. I want to ask you too. Like, now what? The establishment is running out of options, okay? They either have to, let the vote happen, which they'll probably do something with mail-in ballots or some weird thing, or they're going to have to, killing Trump has to be on the table. And this is where I came up with this story I found yesterday, Pat. This story came out yesterday on the same day that they ruled on this. The FBI, Rob, you have this one? The FBI in Miami has launched an urgent manhunt for Iranian secret agent Majid Destani Fatahani. I said that with the Persian slang. He's accused of plotting to assassinate Trump-era officials, including Mike Pompeo, and the revenge killing for Iranian General Hossein Soleimani. So according to leaked U.S. intelligence, it is alleged that the terrorist leaders are seeking to revenge for the killing of Soleimani, and they have made life-threatening threats to Donald Trump, Mike Pompeo, and General Kenneth McKenzie. Maybe that's one of the reasons that they're leaving the border wide open, because it's votes, okay? It's potentially bringing in these soldiers for cyber attacks. And let's just say this guy's mission is to go and knock out Trump. Anything, listen, anything is on the table with these people. I trust the government zero. And I know a lot of people out there like, oh, Vinny's this crazy conspiracy. No. These people are here. It's out in the open, and they're not even hiding anymore. Their goal is to get rid of this guy. Because if you think about it, what do they want at the end of the day? Civil war, push us to civil war, have the military come in and take our guns, and it's game over.
I think it's really, really simple. When you look at guys like Keith Olbermann, and not that we should be talking about him or giving him, any credit or anything here. It's which is a greatest threat to democracy: fair and open elections, or a guy that doesn't get his way and wants to dissolve one of the three branches of government?
That guy, the latter.
Where's the greater threat to democracy? Good Lord.
But by the way, let's kind of flip this real quick, okay? Let's say, actually, I'm trying to find a story here from a book that I want to read to you guys. I'm having a hard time finding it. Hopefully I'll find it here in a second. Let's say this actually went the other way around. Let's say the left had control of Supreme Court 7-2. And let's say they actually did do that. What happens today? What happens to America today? What does Tuesday look like? If yesterday goes 7-2 the other way around, he's off the ballot, you know what that means? Guess who's been sticking around the elections for all this time, not dropping out?
Does her name start with Nikki?
Of course it does. Guess what she was hoping for?
That to happen. Exactly.
She was hoping for this to happen because this was her way of being President Nikki Haley, right? So very strategic on her end. Secondly, yesterday I had one of my favorite conversations of the year with Steve-O. Steve-O from
Jackass.
He came up here. He pulled up here with his RV. He had me on his podcast. Him and 5 of his friends and his dad. It was the best conversation. I'm telling you, one of my favorite conversations. Maybe the podcast was 2 hours that we sat down talking. And at first I'm like, I don't even know what the hell we're going to be talking about. It was unfreaking believable, the convo we had yesterday, right? And his dad, and you'll see this, is not very optimistic about what's going on with America. His dad used to be an executive. He was a former president of Pepsi in Brazil. Whoa. And Steve-O's dad. His dad is a legit guy. He's got a citizenship from 3 different countries, UK, US, and Canada. Mm-hmm. And we started talking about what direction America's going right now. And he says, look, this thing is done with. This is in a place, there's nothing else you guys can do about it. He was very negative about it. Wasn't very much optimistic about the whole thing that's going on here with America.
We should get him a Future Looks Bright shirt.
For me, I am convinced this run, again, I've been talking about this the last few weeks. This run started off with Obama's first term. They won. They injected Obamacare. Your taxes are not going to go up. You're not going to feel a thing. You're not going to have a single penny. What happened to taxes overnight? Boom. Business owners felt it.
If you want to keep your doctor, you keep your doctor.
You keep your doctor. It was all a lie. None of that stuff happened. Then all of a sudden, racism started coming back up in America. Everybody started feeling like, oh, my God, America's racist. America's racist. So then second term, they got back-to-back wins. Then Trump messed it up for them, and he tried everything in his power to make sure Trump wouldn't win. All that stuff's not coming out. And Trump won. So then the series is 2-1. The left is still up. Then Biden wins. Very strategic. Twitter files. The only files we know is Twitter files. You know what files we don't know? We don't know YouTube files. We don't know Google files. We don't know Facebook files. We don't know any of the other files. The only files we know right now is Twitter files, right? The X files, whatever you want to call it,
Those
right?
Those files exist.
That's right. They do exist. So then Biden wins. Now you have this. So today, the fact that the 9 Supreme Court justices, especially the left, chose to go this route, that means they're choosing long-term thinking instead of short-term thinking. Kudos to them, okay? It's great that logically they were able to sit there, even though they can't stand a Trump. They cannot stand the fact that this guy's going to be the candidate. So then this leads to a story from Variety. Rob, do we have the Variety story here? Where they're kind of like, so many great people have stepped away and they've been so noble to step away. Rob, Tom, do you know which story we're talking about? Was it Variety, Tom? You and I were talking about it yesterday in podcast prep. Tom, I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
do you know was it Variety or was it someone else? Was it... do you know what story I'm talking about or no? Okay. So remember when they said, why doesn't Trump just step away and no longer run? Was it Variety or was it...
Oh, yeah. And they were like, they were actually pointing it out at Biden. They said, there have been some great people that stepped away. Harry Truman stepped away. Lyndon Johnson stepped away.
Who was that, though? Do you remember whose story that was? that said that. I don't know. Anyway, so what's the point? Guys, one of your ringers is on. So if you can turn off your ringer or alarm, someone's ringer's on. So they now want him to step away. They want Biden to step away. They desperately want Trump to step away. Okay, they're like, look, why don't you guys go be noble like these other men that stepped away in the past?
Yeah.
So now they're indirectly begging Trump
to leave.
To step away. No. But here's the part. Here's the part that we're not thinking about. So in sales, when I was first coming up, one of my first sales trainers told me, he says, don't give up on a sale until you have 7 ways of contacting that client. So back in the days, what were the 7 ways? It's a phone call, they're not picking up. It's a fax, they don't get back to you. It's a package you sent to their house, they don't get back to you. It's a, it's a dropping by the house, door knocking, they're not opening the door. But you try 7 different ways. Do you really think the establishment and the left is done just with this?
No way.
How many more different campaigns do you think they have the next 9 months or 7 months up their sleeve that they're going to be doing? 8 months up their sleeve that they're going to be doing? Multiple.
Of course.
So, but this is a very big one because strategically they sat there and said, if we do this, it's done. Yeah. If we do this, this is the easiest way now we can do it, right? And if you look at Trump, one of the ways that he's playing, the reason why I have this book here, Power versus Force, that I was trying to find a story in Power versus Force. I posted this years ago, and I used to train out of this one page in the book. And the way it explains it, it says eventually, when you're playing any game, and you play it for so long, eventually you hit a certain level of calibration in the way you're going about your business that you're no longer trying. It becomes effortless. It's no longer like you're forcing things to happen. It's just happening. If you look at him right now, the way he's going about his business, he's just going about it without force. He's just dancing, and he's hitting a certain level of stride that he's pissing off the opponent without trying to piss them off. He's in court half the time. They're trying to throw him off half the time. And meanwhile, what keeps happening? His popularity keeps increasing. The people are more excited about fighting for him, and he's trying less. It's almost like in sports, they say, let the game come to you, right? Mm-hmm. Let the game come to you. Like Phil would tell Kobe, slow down a little bit. Let the game come to you. Hey, Michael, can you talk to Kobe about letting the game come to you? That one meeting that he had with Kobe. I think today, Trump is allowing the game to come to him.
Yeah.
And by the way, let me tell you, that's a scary sight. When you let the game come to you and you're just like the first time you dance with a girl and say you learn how to salsa dance because you took classes and you're like, you're doing all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then you watch somebody, you go to whatever the club is in LA. What was that downtown club?
Oh, White Lotus.
Not White Lotus. It was another one that was Mayan. Mayan was like the place where, if you've never been to Mayan, it's a lot of great books to read in Mayan. But so at Mayan, you would go and you would watch some of these guys. They would just do, and then they would do these things. You're like, dude, this guy freaking.
He's floating.
He's floating. Trump is getting to the phase of floating. Mm-hmm. If he gets into that phase, you think Keith Olbermann's pissed off right now? Dude, the guy's about to hit levels of frustration, agitation, anger that he's never hit before. I would pay if Keith Olbermann, if you're watching this, brother, I got an income stream for you. I would pay, if you had an OnlyFans account, I would pay for you to have a camera on your face when they announce every one of these victories that happens. I just want to see your reaction, guy. You think you're pissed off right now? You think you're going to sleep at night having multiple drinks to try to kind of get this thing to go? Wait till you see what's going to happen to you the next 3, 6, 9 months. Yes, the manipulation's not going to slow down, but if you were sponsored by any whiskey company, a tequila company, you're going to need all of it the next 6, 9 months if this keeps happening like this. So common sense prevails. Even the people on the left who don't like this guy, certainly saying America is more important than my politics. And I respect any Democrat that is America first before political party. And what those people in Supreme Court showed, they showed It's America and the Constitution first before my political party. And I salute you and I respect you.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.